Hello everyone, my name is John and welcome to another OSK review. Today I'm super excited to review the train that I got here today. I've wanted one of these for quite some time and I was finally able to get my hands on one. Thank you to my parents who got me this for Christmas. And today is actually Christmas Day and I've had this thing for a couple of hours and I'm absolutely mind blown with what this engine has to offer. And not just the engine, but the whole train style altogether. And it's absolutely amazing how many features and how many awesome things that this train set has to offer, and it's absolutely amazing, and I'm absolutely mind blown already just from having this for a couple of hours. It's absolutely just amazing. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Lionel, LionChief, Harry Potter, Hogwarts Express, ready to run set with the Dementor's Car and with Bluetooth. Yes, this baby has Bluetooth. I do have a Lionel engine that does already have Bluetooth on it, so I am pretty experienced with how the Bluetooth functions and how it works. And it is definitely a revolutionary way to run your trains because, of course, no one really thought of this. No one, of course, thought of running your trains like this. And back in the day, of course, it didn't even exist back in the day. Because back in the day, of course, the only way to run your trains was with conventional, with a transformer. And then later on, about around the late 1990s, that's when Lionel came out with the TMCC, which is a early version of Legacy. And then, of course, a few years later, Lionel came out with the Legacy system, which is a more fancy version of the TMCC. And it really was a revolutionary way to run your trains back in the day. And then, of course, as time went on, of course, Lionel then came out with the LionChief line, which is a low budget and also another revolutionary way to run your trains by, of course, having a remote at your fingertips that is wirelessly connected to your engine and, of course, can run your trains just like that. But, of course, that wasn't enough because, of course, Lionel then came out with another revolutionary way to run your trains, and that's, of course, with the Bluetooth function, which is absolutely amazing, and it is another fun and revolutionary way to run your trains. Now back to the train. Today we're taking a look at the Hogwarts Express, which is, of course, from the extravaganza Harry Potter. Now, if you do not know what Harry Potter is, well, it is one of the most famous book series and movie franchise of all time, and really there's no other movie like it. It really is such an amazing movie that really is there really is nothing else like it. Really isn't. It's just such an incredible movie. No one expected anything so incredible like this before, and that's kind of the reason why it just became so popular, because there really isn't any other movie like it. And ever since it came out, it has continued every single year. It has continued to, of course, be watched and watched and watched and watched because it's just such an incredible movie to watch, and it's just such a good movie altogether. Now, in one point of the movie, of course, the only way to get to Hogwarts, which is the school that new wizards and so forth, of course, go to, there was only one way to get to the school, and that is, of course, aborting the Hogwarts Express, which is on platform 9 3/4. And of course, this was the only way to get to the school. And so, of course, this was seen in the movie. And I'm not going to spoil the movie too much in case if you're someone who does not or who has not seen the movie just yet. It really is a pretty awesome part in the movie, especially for people who are fans of trains and just like me. And it was a pretty popular part of the movie to, of course, get to Hogwarts, and really was a pretty cool part. It did last in that movie for quite some time. It really was a pretty popular part of the movie. Now, as of course, Lionel is, of course, one of the most famous train companies of all time. Lionel, of course, decided, why not make our rendition of the Hogwarts Express, since, of course, it's a popular part of the movie. So what Lionel went ahead and did is, of course, make their own rendition, which you see here. But this is not the only edition of the Hogwarts Express. It did not just come out this year. They have been doing this for quite some time. I believe around 2010, or at least around the time when the movie came out, they did come out with the Hogwarts Express, but the first version of the Hogwarts Express that Lionel came out with is nowhere near as good as this one that you see here. Because back in the day, when Lionel first did this engine, it was pretty good for the time because, of course, Lionel, of course, had some pretty cool technology back in the day. Um, basically, it basically was similar to this, but of course, the features that were in the inside were a lot more simpler and a lot more different than what we're used to now. Because back in the day, this engine did not really have that much functions. I mean, it looked like this and stuff like that, but it didn't really have that much features like the way that this engine does have now. I mean, back in the day, it did have like the smoke unit, and that was basically it. There was not really much features to it, or not really functions to it. It was basically run and go. There wasn't really much to it. Now, the engine did have a whistle, but it wasn't coming out of a speaker or anything like that. It was actually coming out of a motorized whistle. So basically, back in the day, like around 2010, and this isn't even like Lionel has done this since like the post-war times. So during the post-war times, Lionel came out with a way to, of course, make the whistle noise, and that's basically connecting a plastic piece to the end of a shaft of an electric motor, like a small micro electric motor, and that little plastic piece would spin around in this little box, and then it would basically create the whistle noise by, of course, that little plastic piece connected to the electric shaft, or the shaft of the electric motor. It created that little whistle noise, which was a pretty revolutionary design back in the day. But of course, as time went on, Lionel, of course, came out with TMCC, started getting a lot more revolutionary with the sounds and stuff like that. Because of course, back in like around the late 1990s, they of course started to come up with trains with sound, like actual sounds that are played from a speaker and stuff like that. And it just became a lot more better and better as years went on. And of course, that's when Lionel got really, and of course, this is when, of course, Lionel then became really, really good with the sounds and stuff like that, with like Legacy and Vision Line engines and stuff like that they're really, really good at right now. And of course, for the LionChief engines, the LionChief engines have their own type of thing, which is Rail Sounds RC. Now, there's of course Rail Sounds, which you would find in a normal line-out engine like Legacy or Vision Line. Those of course have Rail Sounds, but of course for the LionChief engines, they of course operate differently because of course they have their own wireless remote, and the wireless remote has 3 buttons, which of course have their function and stuff like that. So of course, that's of course an RC, quote-unquote RC way to run your engines. So of course that's what Lionel came out with, and it's actually a very, very simple way to run your trains, and it's actually a very simple way. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and talk about some of the things about the engine or the set and everything that you're included with when you get the set from Lionel. And before we go over the features, I do want to point something out, and that is talking about the engine here. So I was about to move on to the features and everything that you're included with the set, but I do want to mention this because this is definitely pretty important to know about as well. So the engine that you see here is actually an actual engine in real life. It's an actual real life engine that is operating. Now, as you can tell by the style, it is nowhere near a American locomotive. It's nowhere near an American locomotive. You can just tell by the style and how it's made, it is not an American engine. This is actually a European engine, and to be more specific, it's in Great Britain. So this is a Hall class steam locomotive. I believe that's what it is. It's of course a steam locomotive, and the wheel configuration for this engine is a 460. And by going along with that, it has 4 wheels for the leading trucks, 6 wheels for the driver wheels, and then 0 wheels for the trailing trucks. So like I said, this is an actual steam locomotive that used to run, and and it actually did say Hogwarts Castle on the side. Back a few years back, they would actually dress this engine up to make it look like the actual Harry Potter engine, or to make it look like it's like in Harry Potter, like with the Hogwarts Express sign on the front and stuff like that. And of course, in Europe, the bridge that everyone knows, or the bridge that is of course very well known with this train, is actually real life, and that train, the real life train actually has gone through that bridge multiple times. Now, the real life engine, there's actually two versions of the real life version, because they have the real life version, which is in Europe, but of course, you cannot only see the Hogwarts Express in Europe, because you can actually see this thing at Universal Studios. Yes, Universal Studios has their own version of the Hogwarts Express, which is basically a life-size replica of the real-life engine. And then, of course, I believe it might have been built by the same company who built the actual engine, or something along those lines. And then they basically, it was then taken to United States, and it was then taken to Universal Studios, and it has currently been a ride for the people who go to Universal Studios and get to experience how it felt for all the wizards to, of course, get to aboard the Hogwarts Express. Now, it is a self-driven engine. Of course, it's a ride, so of course there's no actual engineer that is, of course, sitting inside the cab and, of course, riding the engine, because there's no one in there. It's just a self-driven engine. So it is a life-size version, and it basically looks exactly like the real-life version. And so it is a very cool little engine, and of course it does have like steam coming out of it, and it's pretty cool. I've not seen it in person before, but I have seen videos and pictures of it online and YouTube and stuff like that. So it is a very cool, very, very cool little replica, and of course a pretty awesome ride, especially for those who of course can experience getting on the Hogwarts Express when they go to Universal Studios. It really is a pretty fun attraction to of course go there and of course relive the experience of the Hogwarts Express. Now let's go ahead and get to the features and everything that is included in the set from Lionel. So here is everything that you're included in this set. Now let's go ahead and go over everything that the engine has to offer. So the engine is a electric locomotive controlled by included LionChief remote, LionChief universal remote sold separately, or Bluetooth, LionChief app. This engine is equipped with the Rail Sounds RC sound system with the steam chuffing and background sounds. Also has whistle bell and user activated announcements. This does have a powerful maintenance-free motor. It has an operating headlight, puffing smoke, on-off switches for smoke, chuff, and sound, chuffing sounds in sync with the puffing smoke, operating coupler and rear of tender, cab windows which are glass, traction tires, die-cast metal locomotive body, die-cast metal frame on tender, separately applied marker lamps, driver linkage, brake stands, coupler air lines, and buffers. Now for the passenger cars include interior illumination, operating couplers, soft molded diaphragms between cars, and then of course my personal favorite passenger car of the set is the Dementors Car, which is a very special car that you can buy from Lionel. Or if you do choose to get the set, there is two versions of the set. You can just get the set with just the normal 3 passenger cars, or you can get the version that I have right here, which does have the Dementors Car, which is like the car that has the ghosts and stuff inside of it, which is a pretty cool part of the movie that I do recommend seeing if you're someone who has not seen the movie yet. Now, of course, let's go on and go talk about the LionChief remote. So the LionChief remote has the forward and reverse speed control knob, 3 buttons for whistle, sound, bell, and user activated announcements, and it does require 3 AAA batteries, which are not included when you get the engine or train. Now, of course, for someone who is getting into the hobby and you're purchasing this engine as your first ever train set, this train set does come with a simple wall power pack supply, and it does come with large 40-inch or 102 centimeters by 60-inch, which is 152 centimeters oval or fast track, which you can simply all connect, and it is very, very simple to set up and basically plug that power supply into the wall, and then plug it into the track, and you'll be ready to go. And of course, make sure to put batteries into the remote, and you'll be ready to go to run this train. And it's super simple, and that's what LionChief is all about. And that's why this LionChief line is super reliable, because of course it's low priced. It's for people who have a low budget, of course, because if you're someone who of course has a low budget and want to still get a decent quality train, LionChief is the way to go, because of course with like legacy engines and stuff like that, legacy and Vision Line engines, those are of course very expensive. They go around for like $300 to like $400 to over $1,000, which is very expensive. So of course, if you're someone who does have a low budget and want to at least get something that is decent, I highly suggest getting a LionChief engine. This is not, of course, the only LionChief engine. There's a variety of different LionChief engines that you can get. Not only steam engines, but also diesel engines. I mean, there is a wide variety of different things they can get for LionChief. Now, the Hogwarts Express is only available for LionChief, and so because this is a low budget engine, of course, they do have Lionel does have to make a few cutaways to, of course, make this engine more not profitable, but more affordable, I should say. So of course, if you're someone who is all about high quality and stuff like that, this might not be the engine for you. But of course, if you're someone who is still a Harry Potter fan, I still highly suggest getting one of these, because even though this is a LionChief engine and it's a low budget engine, this thing is still really good, and I do highly suggest getting this, because even though this is a LionChief engine, it's a low budget engine, Lionel still did a really awesome job by, of course, still adding some pretty awesome features and really good detail and stuff like that, which is really nicely done by Lionel. And so with that all being said, let's go ahead and take a look at everything that this train set has to offer. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a closer look at the engine, the tender, and the 3 passenger cars that are included in the set. And then after that, we're going to send some power through the track and run this train set for a couple of minutes. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the engine. Now, like I said, you do have to keep this in mind, because this is a European engine, not an American steam locomotive, so this is a lot more different than what you're used to if you're someone who is all about American locomotives. This is a lot more different compared to an American locomotive. So we're going to go ahead and start from the bottom and then work our way up. So on the bottom, as you can see right here, you do have part of the cast-in frame well along here, which is painted red, for the buffers right here, which are cast in. Right here, you do have a separately applied air hose right here, and then a separately applied, and then a cast-in driver linkage, I believe it's called. I'm not a professional with European engines, and I do apologize if you're someone who does get offended with that, but I really am trying my best here, because I'm not someone who is all about European engines, because as you can tell, my layout is all about American, so I'm really lacking in the experience and knowledge about European engines, so I really do apologize. Now, around the buffers, as you can tell, you do have some really nice cast-in riveting detail, which is very nice looking. Moving up above the buffers, as you can see right here, you do have 2 cast-in lamps on each side of the engine. These are not functional, but they do look cool, and they are cast in. Moving up on the engine, as you can see right here, you do have some more riveting detail all along the bottom. And then right here, you do have an operating LED headlight. This, of course, stays on at all times, and it is very bright. Because this is LED, this will not be anytime. This will not go out anytime. If this was like a fluorescent light bulb, they would not last as long as an LED. So because Lionel has put in an LED headlight in here, this will last a super long time, and they'll probably never go out anytime soon. So very nice job by Lionel. Now above the headlight, you do have this little number plate right here. I do not exactly know what this is for, but I'm sure, of course, all of you that do know exactly what that's for, go ahead and let me know in the comments. All along the engine, you do have, here's a look at the front of the boiler. There's quite a bit to talk about on the boiler. So you do have some riveting detail on each side, here and here. As you can see here, you do have like the hinges for the boiler right here, which is pretty cool. On the front, you do have this separately applied piece. I believe this lever is used to open up the tender, which is pretty cool. I do know that this is a signature thing about European engines. Above that, you do have a very nice looking crisp row number on the front of the engine. Of course, this engine is number 5972. And above that, you have this super awesome separately applied Hogwarts Express sign. It's super awesome looking. I really love the golden paint to it, the golden paint to the letters, and then you do have like this golden trim around the sign, which is super cool looking. And that's definitely one of my highlights about the engine. I absolutely love the sign. There really isn't any other trains in my layout that has that little sign in the front. It really is a signature thing about European engines. They of course have this awesome sign to the front of the engine. Now, as you can see right here, you do have the Hogwarts emblem up on the front or on top of the sign, which is actually pretty awesome. And I just absolutely love the sign altogether. It is attached to the boiler, to the front of the boiler, which is actually pretty cool, which I'll be able to show you guys later in the video. Alright, here's a look at the top of the boiler. As you can see right here, you do have the cast-in smokestack right here. This does have like a little bronze tip on the top of the smokestack. Inside the smokestack, there is a operating smoke unit. Now, with the LionChief, with the LionChief engines, these do not have the fan. They don't have like fan-driven smoke units in there, like with Legacy and Vision Line steam engines. With Vision Line and Legacy steam engines, they would have a fan-driven smoke unit in here. But of course, with the LionChief engines, they of course have to cut away with some stuff to of course make it more affordable for low-budget for low-budget consumers. So of course, one thing that they did cut away with the fan-driven smoke unit, and they went back old school to go back to their old roots, and of course use something that is a lot more easier to, or it's a lot more cheaper and a lot more of course affordable to use, and that is a classic smoke unit that Lionel has used for many years, which is basically a unit that basically heats up, and there is a little metal lever that is that's under the engine. I don't think you can see it. No, you can't see it on this engine, but there's a little lever on the bottom under the engine that basically lifts down, or that gets pushed down by the movement of the driving wheels, and that basically pushes down, and then it goes back up, which allows the smoke to puff out. It's a very complicated smoke unit, but it is usable, and that's what Lionel has used for many years, and it's actually pretty cool. Of course, it's not as good as a fan-driven smoke unit, because of course a fan-driven smoke unit would basically be a small electric motor that spins in a small fan that would blow the smoke up and would be a lot more prototypical. But this smoke unit on this engine does work very well as well, but it's not the same as a fan-driven smoke unit. But of course, if they had to put a fan-driven smoke unit in this engine, it would be a lot more expensive and stuff like that. So they do have to cut away with some stuff to make this engine a lot more affordable for low-budget consumers, and of course for people to start with a hobby. As we move back of the engine, as you can tell, the front of the boiler does have this black paint scheme on the front, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, you do have quite a bit of riveting detail all around the boiler. Now, as you get back towards the engine, back towards the boiler, as you can tell, the paint scheme does change into this very nice red. I do not know exactly what this type of red is, but it's not a bright red, but it's more of a darker red, which does look very nice and really nicely job by Lionel. Now, as you can tell, there is this nice red paint scheme, dark red paint scheme, but then in between that you do have these little gold and black trims on each part of the engine, which is pretty cool. Now on the boiler, as you can tell, it is flat like here, but of course as the engine, or as the boiler goes down, as you can tell, there is a little bit of an incline that goes up and up and up. That is normal and that is the type of design that European engines do have. They do have like a little bit of an incline in the boiler, which is actually pretty cool. And that incline is like increasing in size of the boiler, which is kind of pretty neat. As we get back towards the engine, as you can see right here, you do have some more mold cast in detail along here. Now in here, we do have quite a bit of stuff in here. I believe these are the safety valves for the engine, and it's in this nice little I do not know, I don't remember what exactly it's called, but it's just in this nice little space up here. I believe these are the safety valves. There is quite a bit of in there. I believe there is about like 6 in there, 6 safety valves in there. It's pretty cool, and they're all stably applied, and they do look nice. As we get back towards the engine, as you can tell, of course, you do have like, of course, you do have the roundness of the boiler. But then once you get back towards the engine, as you can tell, it gets to this, to this blocky version of, just get this blocky part of the boiler. This is of course where the firebox is. I do not know exactly why it's designed like this, but of course it's for the firebox, and in the firebox you do have a few little cast in details along here, which does look nice. As we get back to the end of the boiler, I believe this is a separately applied whistle. Now the real life train does have 2 whistles. The one it does have like a low pitch one and a high pitch one. They're like single tone whistles. So this one does have 2, and it's like covered up in this little guard, or there's no guard that's like covering up the whistle. Looks like it's like a little deflector to make like the sound, probably like the sound going forward or something like that. I'm not sure. Probably like a deflector, so the sound is only coming from, so you can only hear the sound coming from the front and not in the back. But these are 2 different whistles, and it looks pretty cool. There was I did remember when I was taking this engine off out of the packaging, there was like a little foam piece that was covering this up to make sure that it didn't get bent or break off the engine. Alright, so here's a look at the top of the cab. As you can tell, the top of the cab is black. As for the rest of the engine is red. As you can tell on the top of the cab, you do have a bunch of really nice looking riveting detail, cast-in riveting detail, which does look very nice. Alright, so here's a look at the inside of the cab. There is quite a bit of stuff in the cab. As you can tell, there's a bunch of cast-in detail all over the place. You can see the little smoke box to, of course, put the coal inside. This all is cast-in detail. There's nothing hand-painted, but it does look nice. Now, as you can see down here, there is 2 little switches right here, which are very easy to get access to. So these 2 little switches are for 2 different things. The one on the left is for the smoke, so you can turn on and off the smoke, which is very simple. And then the one on the right here, this one is for the chuffing. So what the chuffing is, it basically turns off the chuffing noise. So of course, when you're running the engine, of course you're getting the chuffing noise and stuff like that. But of course, if you do not want the chuffing sound, you basically just flip that switch off, and there will be no chuffing sound at all. And so of course, when you start running the engine, it will be completely silent. But when you do press one of the buttons on the remote, you can still blow the whistle, still ring the bell, or play the announcements and stuff like that. So of course you can have the chuffing off and still have the sounds available, because the whistle, bell, and the announcements are always available, even when you have the chuffing off. So you can have the chuffing off and still have all the sounds, or you can just have this engine completely silent by, of course, having the chuff off, and of course running the engine without the chuffing, and just not pressing any of the buttons, and the engine will be completely silent. Here's a better look at the switches. As you can tell, they're very nicely labeled, very easy to see, and they're very easy to access because the cab is wide open. It's very easy to access, and it looks very, very nice. Alright, so here's a look at Lionel's Jawbar System for the LionChief engines, or LionChief steam engines. Now, these Jawbar systems are super simple to set up. I mean, even a baby can do this because it's super simple to connect this engine to the tender. It is super simple. So as you can tell, this Jawbar system consists of four little leads, and basically on the other side of the tender would be that little other piece, like the female connector, and this is like the male. So basically lift up the engine, and then simply press your finger down on it. It locks right up. It's super simple, and it's very nicely thought of Lionel to make such a simple connector for this engine, and it's just super simple, and even a baby can do this. It's really super simple. And then when it's time to take the engine off the tender, basically just lift the engine up again, just comes right off. It's super simple and super easy to take off and put on. Really is very well thought by Lionel. Alright, so here's a look at the side of the engine. There is quite a bit to talk about on the side of the engine. So starting with the front, you can see a little bit of the red paint scheme all along the bottom of the running boards. I don't know why it took me that long to realize that. You can get a little bit of a look of the lanterns. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit more better. As you can see right here, you can get a better look of the riveting detail on the side of the engine. As you can see, you do have some separately applied handrails all along the side on both sides of the engine. As you can tell, the handrails are painted black for this part of the boiler, but then once it starts getting to that red paint scheme, they change the paint scheme, change the color of the handrails to the red of the rest of the engine, which is a pretty cool design. As you can see right here, you do have some more casting detail, like riveting detail and so forth. Then right here you do have this cast-in pipe, which is of course allows the steam to enter into the piston, which is right below here. And as you can see right here, it's a very well designed piston. As you can see, you do have some piping down here. Let me turn on the flash real quick so you can see a little bit more better. So you do have some little piping, so of course the steam can of course exit when there's a lot of pressure being built up. As you can see on top of on the side of the piston, you do have a little bit of riveting detail on each side. You do have this little box right here. I believe this is probably for like maintenance and stuff like that. You do have these nice little golden trims on the side of the pistons, which is really nice. Now, as you get back here, you do have some more cast-in detail all along here, which is very nice. You have some more cast-in detail right here and here. Then right here, you do have this really nice looking, I forgot what it's called. I'm not an expert in European engines, but it's like the little driver wheel cover. I don't know what it's called. I'm so sorry. I really don't know. Just a little cool little detail for the driver wheels to, of course, have enough space in the engine. And of course, they have like a nice little golden trim, and then black on the top, and then the red paint scheme right here. You have some more cast-in detail back here, like a little tank. I see this like a tank or something. And then right here, you have this beautiful looking Hogwarts Castle sign right here. It's absolutely gorgeous. You have this beautiful golden trim all around the sign. Beautiful text, Hogwarts Castle. Very nicely done. Really like the font on the side. You have some more golden detail or golden trim. More of the red paint scheme. I absolutely love the sign. The sign is super cool. I love the sign on the front. Love the sign on the side. Really is beautiful. And as you can see on the back of the firebox, you do have some cast-in detail all along back here. Some riveting detail, which is really nice. You do have that another driver wheel cover on the top, which is really nice. As you can see on the back of the cab, you do have a lot of riveting detail all over the place, all along down here, up down here. I believe this might be a grab iron or just another part of cast-in detail. As you can see, you have this beautiful golden trim paint. You have this beautiful golden trim along this black line or black trim, and then right here you have a beautiful crisp number or engine number and road number. Gosh. And as you can see, it has this nice black trim around it, and then you have the beautiful golden text right in the middle of that black box, which is very nice looking. Now, as you can see on that side of the engine, as you can see right here, you do have these two little steps, which does have riveting detail. And then there is this little pipe right here that goes along the bottom, which is pretty cool. Now I do want to go ahead and show you guys the driver wheels, or just the wheels in general. So as you can see, you do have the 4 leading trucks on the front. Of course, there's 4 wheels, so there's 2 wheels on this side, 2 wheels on the other side, and then right here you do have the 6 driving wheels. You do have 3 on this side and 3 other on the other side. These are of course spoke wheels, which do look very nice. They do have like a matte finish to them, which is very nice. Now this does have driving wheels. This one, the last wheel on the back, the last 2 wheels on the back do have tracking tires. These 2 don't. This one is just like a free spinning wheel. This one is actually connected to the track, which is pretty nice. As you can tell, the side rods, or the rods, do look very nice. Do have a really nice silver look to them. Very nicely done. They are of course connected to the piston, and when the engine is moving, these pistons do look, or the side rods do look absolutely beautiful, and this engine does run very nicely. Now I don't know if you can tell, but in between the wheels you do have the brakes for the driver wheels, and in between the middle driver wheel. So you do have a brake right here, a brake on this side. There's not one on this side. I believe there's one over here as well, right over here, right in front, or right behind the steps over here. It's kind of hard to see, but it is there. Alright, so here's a look at the other side of the engine. On the other side of the engine has a lot more detail than the other side. So you do have, of course, similar stuff on this side than the other side has. There is a few different stuff, like there is this little casting piece right here. I'm going to light up my little light right here. Do you have a different light over here? You do have a lot of piping on this side compared to the other side. As you can tell, you do have the handrail right here. Now the handrail is sticking out a lot more farther than the other one, because right behind the handrail there is this big pipe that goes along the side all the way to the back and down over here, which is really cool. And then you have more casting detail along here, and then over here, and then you do have another casting detail right here, and then you can have some more piping going along the bottom, which is really cool looking. Here's a better look at the pipe I was talking about. So as you can see, it goes up here. You have the piping going all along the front, all the way up to the front, and goes into the front of the boiler, which is pretty cool. So as you can tell, it is the handrail is sticking a lot more farther, and as you can tell, like as it goes to the front, it just like bam, sticks out, goes all along the back, and then the handrail goes right back to the original position like the other side. It's very nicely done. Alright, so here's a look at the bottom of the engine. I'm trying to be as careful as possible, but trying to be able to show you guys what's under here. So under here, as you can see, you can get a better look at the leading trucks. If you look down here, if you look closely, you'll see the Bluetooth logo to let you know that this engine does have Bluetooth. As you can see, you can get a better look at the driving wheels. And right here you can see the 2 pickup holders that of course power up the engine. And of course all the way to the left, you can get a better look at the drawbar. Alright, so here's a look at the front of the tender. We have now completed everything that we have to see for the locomotive. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tender. So as you can see right here, you can see the female connector for the Jawbar system. Very simple. As you can see right here, you do have 2 buffers right here and here. We have some nice molded do have some molded detail. This tender is made out of plastic, but it does have a metal frame. As we move up, as you can see right here, you do have a plastic cold load right here, and here you do have 2 separately applied brake. I forgot what it's called. The brake, it's just the brakes basically. The brake wheels, whatever. These are really nicely made, really nicely detailed. They do not spin, but they do look really nice though. Alright, so here's a look at the top of the tender. As you can tell, it's very open. So as you can see, you do have those doors that are of course holding the coal back. You have some more separately applied detail here. A lot of molded in detail all along here and here. As you can see, you can get a better look at the plastic coal load. It goes all the way down to the doors, goes all the way up. Of course, you do have this little lip right here to, of course, block the coal from getting into everything else. Here's a look at the back of the tender, or back of the top. So you do have these two little hatches. I believe one of them is for oil, and one of them is for water, and I do not remember what the other one is for, but it's for something. I did forget to mention that there are separately applied grab irons in each side of the engine, or side of the tender. Alright, so here's a look at the back of the tender. As you can see right here, you do have a lot of casting detail all along on the top, a lot of riveting detail. As you can see right here, you do have a few steps, molded steps. You do have a few riveting details down here. You do have a really nice trim all around the back for the paint scheme. Excuse me. As you can see right here, you do have more of a better look of the buffers right here, which are basically the same as the front of the engine. And then right here, you do have an operational coupler right on the front, or the back of the tender, which is a very nicely made metal coupler, which is very, very nice. Alright, so here's a look at the side of the tender. There is a lot to look at. As you can tell, there's a bunch of riveting detail all over the place. Looks very, very nice. As you can see, you do have more of that golden and black trim all around the sides. As you can see right here, you do have some steps right here. You do have 3 wheels for the tender, which are spoke wheels as well. You don't really see that on American engines, because with American engines, they would basically have normal trucks. They wouldn't really have spoke wheel trucks before, except for the engine. As you can see right here, you do have the beautiful, crisp-looking Hogwarts Railways logo, and then in the middle, you do have the Hogwarts emblem in the middle, which is very nicely painted and very nicely looking. As you look at the bottom, covering the spoke wheels, the spoke trucks, you do have a better look at the trucks, and as you can see on the trucks, there are like little cast in detail. No, is this cast in? Yeah, this is cast in. No, not cast in, molded in. So molded in, you can actually see like little nice molded in detail of the springs, like the, let's just say just springs, because I don't remember the term of it, but oh well. So of course I did talk about the steps in here, and of course talked about the wheels, and then you do have 2 other steps right here, and then back here you do have another separately applied grab iron on this side, and there's another one on the other side. And I do want to mention that the other side of the tender is basically very identical, so there's not really a difference in that, so I don't really need to show that. Because this thing is so easy to of course, so easy to pick up because it's very light, I can easily just pick this up and show you guys what's under here, so you can get a better look at the Jawbar System. You do have this little wire going up into the tender. As you can see right here, you can get a better look at the spoke wheels under here. They all spin, which is very nice. As you can see right here, you can see the speaker, which is right below here. You can see right here it does say Lionel LLC, made in China. You do have some nice cast-in detail along the bottom. Oh, I do want to mention that this frame is actually all metal. So the frame is all metal, but of course the top of the tender is all molded in. So here's a little better look at the spoke wheels, and then back here you can see the look at the coupler back here. Alright, so with the engine out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the 3 passenger cars that are included in this engine. So the first one, I believe, is like the baggage car, I guess you could say. And then the second one is just a normal coach, and then the last one is of course the Dementor's car, which is my personal favorite, which we'll get into last because that one's the most favorite one that I personally like. Alright, so here's a look at the front of the coach. There is quite a bit of detail to look at. You do have some nice cast-in detail right here. You have an separately applied, no, is it separately applied? No, it's molded in grab iron on both sides of the engine. You do have some readable text right here, which does say, let me see right here. So it's basically just some labeling it's just some pretty cool little labeling on the side of the on the side of the front of the coach. And then right here, it's hard to see right here, but oh, I accidentally derailed it. Well, that's alright. As you can see right here, it does say C1, which is kind of cool, and there's like a little bulletin step right here, and then you can see the buffers on each side. And as you can see right here, you do have another operating coupler, which works just like that. And then what's pretty cool about this engine, or this cars, is that these do have rubber diaphragms on each side. There is no door right there, but it's cool that the diaphragms are there. Here's a look at the top. Now there's not really much to look at the top. There's a few cast-in details, not cast-in, molded-in details all along the top, and there you go. Now the other side is exactly the same, or the other side of the coach is exactly the same, so I'm not going to go ahead and talk about that, but let's go ahead and take a look at the side. And this is a little derailed. There you go. So there's quite a bit to look at the side of the coaches. So you do have a really nice paint scheme to match with the engine. You have a nice silver black trim along the top and bottom. You do have the road number. You do have molding doors with windows. All the windows are faded out, not faded. Yeah, I guess you could say faded, or have like a frost-like look to it. They're all faded out, so of course you can't see in there because you don't really want to see in there. So of course you can still see the light coming out because these are illuminated, so you can see the light coming out of there. I believe the lights in here are LEDs, and I do want to mention something about these cars that I do not have in any other of my cars that I do have in my fleet. I believe these cars do have capacitors in here, which is supposed to be for the anti-flickering feature, because if you wanted to power up the track and then remove the car from the track, you would see the lights kind of like fade out. You kind of just see the lights kind of fade out a little bit, fade out, because they still have some charge in there from the capacitors. So it's really, really cool, because that's something I have never had in any of my other trains, and that's just something that's super cool. It really is useful, and of course it's not told in the features of the cars, but that's just kind of something that just Lionel just kind of snuck away with, which is actually pretty awesome. And that's something that's really, really helpful and helps me out. So I went ahead and added power to the track, so these do have like a warm look to it. So if you want to lift up the cars, as you can tell, they kind of just fade out a little bit, which is really cool. I just took out the track power, and as you can tell, it just faded out. That's super cool. That it does have a capacitor in there to prevent any flickering going on, which is actually really nice. Now as you get towards the back, as you can see, you do have more windows and molded in doors, more grab irons and stuff like that. And then of course you do have these normal these other windows as well, with the little windows on the top. As you can see right here in the middle, you do have a little emblem right here that says Hogwarts Railway, and it does have the Hogwarts emblem in the middle. It's pretty cool. And then you have another molded in door right there. Here's a look at the trucks. The trucks are really nicely done. Look very nice. They're all cast in details, but it does look nice. 4 wheels in each side. Oh, 2 wheels in each side. And then you do have some nice undercarriage details along the bottom as well, which is very nice. Here's a look at the bottom of the car. So of course you have 2 pickup rollers in each side, and that's basically it. You get a better look at the undercarriage detail. Here's a look at the second car that is included in this set. It's basically the same thing as the first one we took a look at, but basically the front or basically the sides are different compared to the first one, because of course the doors were different, the windows were different, but basically other than that, they're basically exactly the same, and there's not really much else to it. It's also illuminated, and of course do have operating couplers and normal trucks and stuff like that. So basically everything is the same, just a different arrangement. Now here's a look at my personal favorite car of this whole entire set, is the Dementor's car. The Dementor's car is absolutely awesome. So the Dementor's car is an ordinary, well, looks like an ordinary passenger car, but There's two things that are different. If you look in the windows, you can see the Dementors, the ghosts, in the windows, which is actually super cool. And then, not only are the windows different, but this car actually has an onboard sound system. What the sound system does is that it makes some it makes some pretty awesome sounds. Like after like 4 minutes after adding some power, the lights would shut off and start flickering around, going along with these sounds that are on board, and it's just super cool. I believe it does it for like 40, like after 40 seconds, and like every 40 seconds, it continues to do the same thing. But it's super cool, and the sounds are really cool sounding. They're kind of horrific sounding, like in a good way, like scary sounding, and that's in a good way. So as you can tell in the windows, you do have like all these Dementors and stuff like that, and this is part of one part of the movie, and it's just super cool to see all those Dementors in there. And it's the same on the other side. If you look at the other side, it's basically the same. And it's super cool. When this Dementor car operates, it's really cool. And I really do want to mention something that you can, if you're someone who does have the Hogwarts Express and does not have the Dementor's car, you can purchase the Dementor's car separately. So do not worry about not being able to get your hands on one of these, because it is you can get this separately from Lionel, which is very nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the bottom real quick. There's quite a bit to look at from the bottom. So if you look just under this truck right here, you can see the little speaker right here, and the speaker is, and when you do have this Dementor's car going, it is very loud, which is nice. And then if you look in the middle right here, you do have this sound switch right here. So if you do want to have the sounds and the flickering and stuff like that, you can turn that on. But if you do not want to have the sounds going on, you just want this to be a normal passenger car, you can just turn the sounds off, and the car will just stay illuminated and will not do that no special sequence. So if you do prefer to have the sounds on, just flip it on. But if you don't prefer it, just flip it off, and it'll just stay illuminated during the whole time you run your engine and have power to the track. So as long as you have power to the track, this car will be lit up and will do its sequence, and it's just super cool. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and power up the track to actually show you guys how this car functions, because I don't want to show you guys, because I don't want you guys to like try to look out for the Dementor's car while this train is running. So let's go ahead and send power to the track, and let me show you guys this awesome Dementor's car feature that this car has to offer. So basically after like 40 seconds, it stays completely lit, and then after about 40 seconds it shuts off, and then starts doing this cool little sequence of stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and add some power, and let's check out this awesome little feature that this car has to offer. And there you have it. That is super awesome. I absolutely love this Dementor's car. I highly recommend getting one of these if you do not have it with you. It is super cool. As you can tell, it has super cool haunting sounds, and you can see all the lights flickering around and stuff like that. When you have train layout nice and dark, and you're just having this train run in dark, it looks even cooler, and it is just super haunting sounding, and it is definitely pretty loud as well. So like, it's not like you can't only hear the sound when the car is going past you. Like you can hear the whole entire, like you can hear the whole entire sequence all around the whole entire train. It's not just the this one car. It's just basically you can hear this whole entire car throughout the whole entire train, and that's just something that really is something super cool about this car. It just continues to do that. Like it's just a sequence. Like when the power is added to the track, it basically continues to do that. I think like I don't know how long the sequence is, but like after the sequence, it's like every 35 seconds or so, it does that cool note sequence, and it just keeps doing that over and over, and it's just super cool. I absolutely love it. It's super amazing, and I absolutely love it to death because it's so amazing, and it just works so. It's just such an amazing car, and I'm glad Lionel went out of the way to do something so cool like that, and it really is something special. So if you're someone who does have the Hogwarts Express and does not have this car, I highly recommend getting it because it's super cool. As you can tell, the features on this thing is super awesome. Lionel does an amazing job with everything that they do, and that is another example why they're so awesome, because I've never had a passenger car with an awesome sound feature on here. Like I've never had a car like that. It's super awesome and really just gives you a haunting feeling, and really is something cool, and definitely something cool to use during Halloween as well. It's super awesome. Now, when you do have this engine lit, oh no, excuse me, when you do have this car lit up, or when you do have this sound function off, it will basically just stay lit up the whole time. It will not turn off and do all the flickering stuff and like that. It will just stay completely lit all the time. So if you do not prefer to have that sound, that cool feature, you can just have this as a normal passenger car, but of course it has the Dementors on the car, which is kind of cool. So definitely a really cool, awesome feature, and definitely there's no other feature like that. It's super awesome. Alright, so that is the look around on the Hogwarts Express. It is absolutely a mind-blowing engine. Now, to of course close things off, we're going to add some power to the track and run this train on the layout for a couple of minutes. Now before we get to that, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys something real quick. I do want to show you guys the remote that is included with this engine, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the side a little bit. So here is the engine that is included with this this train. So as you can see right here, you do have a normal LionChief remote, basically powered on. I added some batteries into here. It's basically a normal LionChief remote. Now I do want to mention something. I do want to point this out. So I do have another LionChief remote with me. So as you can see right here, this is the engine, the remote that comes with the engine, the LionChief remote. So as you can see right here, I really do like these newer LionChief remotes because these do really have a really nice smooth dial. Now with the older LionChief engines, with the older LionChief engines, they came with a remote like this. Now as you can see right here, these do have like a rough, like they do have a rough feeling to it. And then as you can tell, the buttons are different. Like they have a bell, speaker, whistle, horn, and then with the newer ones, do you have like a shaded, like a shadow version of the bell, like a microphone and then a horn. And then of course on the bottom you have Harry Potter Hogwarts Express. It's really cool. And then there's a Lionel logo. The Lionel logo on the newer ones are different, a little bit different compared to the older ones. But those are the differences between the two different remotes, and I definitely prefer to have this one because these do have a really nice smooth feeling to the remote, which I really do like. I do really like about these newer remotes. And now of course the other preferred way to run this engine is with the Bluetooth function. So I'm going to quickly show you how the function works. So here's my tablet, just something ordinary to get. I was just looking at information about the Hogwarts Express, so of course I can get a little bit more information about Hogwarts Express. So you download the LionChief engine, the LionChief app, and this is what it looks like. You have the horn bell, announcements, couplers, if you do have operating couplers, no connected locomotive, and stuff like that. So basically when you have power to the track, you'll see your engine pop up right here. Basically connect that, link up, and you'll be good to go. So let's go ahead and power this engine up, and I'll be using the LionChief remote to use this engine up. So let's go ahead and power this guy up. Alright, so we're now ready to add some power to the track, so let's go ahead and power this guy up. So you may be wondering what that noise is. That noise is letting you know that the engine cannot recognize that your remote is connected, or if you're not, or this was the noise that the engine will make when you're trying to connect your engine to your mobile device. But of course, that just lets you know that the remote is not working or your engine is not connected to Bluetooth. So basically what you do is basically flip on the switch, and it should be working just fine. I think I have the volume turned way down low. Or, you know what? I know exactly what's wrong. I just forgot to flip on the chuffing sound. Alright, there we go. So we now got our sounds. Let's just move back a little bit, then we can do that. So let's go ahead and go over some of the sounds that are included in this engine. So I'm going to first start off with the whistle. Very nice sounding whistle. Here's the bell. Now, I personally wouldn't use the bell because European engines do not have bells on them, so it is not prototypical for this engine to have it. But of course, if you're someone that does not want to be prototypical, and of course you do not have to worry about this engine being prototypical, because I'm not going to stop you from doing whatever you want with your engine. So of course you can use the bell whenever you want. I just personally wouldn't use the bell. Now here's some of the sounds that are included with this engine. Now the sounds, the announcements are part of the sounds from the movie. So let's go ahead and go over some of them. So here's the first one.
Now, your train leaves in 10 minutes. There's your ticket. Stick to it, Harry. That's very important. Stick to your ticket.
So if you do not know who that is Hagrid. And he's basically talking to Harry, the main character. So of course, has his ticket, and stick to his ticket because it's very important. And here, now there is another announcement for when your engine is idle.
But Hagrid, there must be a mistake. This is platform 9 3/4. There's no such thing, is there?
That's Harry talking to Hagrid. So there's only 2 announcements when the engine is in idle, but then when the train is moving, there is other ones that you can, of course, access. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and send this engine around the track. And of course, I will be having the Dementor's Car on. I do have it on, but I just had the sounds off, so it is not playing any noises, but I will be running the Dementor's Car on while I'm running this train. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, let's go ahead and send her out. And so that is my review on the Lionel, LionChief, Harry Potter, Hogwarts Express with the Dementor's Car and Bluetooth. If you're someone who's starting off with the hobby, I absolutely think this is the perfect train to start off with, as it's absolutely amazing. I love every single feature that this engine has. Very awesome detail, really awesome cars, really awesome tender, really awesome sounds, especially with the Dementor's Car. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. It really is something that you can't really, of course, expect, because really, Lionel always comes off with something that you will never expect and will always blow your mind with every single feature or sound that Lionel always puts in every single engine that they produce. This thing is an absolute amazing piece of artwork. I highly recommend getting one of these, especially the one with the Dementor's Car, because the Dementor's Car, my goodness, it is absolutely amazing. Now, if you're looking to purchase this item, the retail price for this engine is right around $400, but I'm sure you can probably get a little bit of a discount depending on the Lionel dealer that you choose. I absolutely think that it is definitely worth the price, because you do get a little bit more than a normal LionChief engine, because usually the retail price would probably go around like $200 or for like an ordinary LionChief engine, but this is a little bit more than normal, because of course you get a really nicely detailed engine with a lot of cast-in details, a lot of separately applied details, which is really nice about this engine. Not only the engine, but also the tender, and of course when you get that Dementor's Car with the awesome lighting features and the awesome separate sound package, or no, sound package, the sound with its own sound system. I mean, I definitely think that it's definitely worth the price, because it really is no other like it. Now, of course, like I said, there is two versions of this engine. Of course, there is not versions of the engine. There is two versions of the train. Of course, you can get the normal one, which is the 3 normal passenger cars, or you can get the one with the Dementor's Car, which is the one you see here. I recommend getting any of them. If you're someone who does currently own a Hogwarts Express but does not have the Dementor's Car, you can buy it separately from Lionel or from your Lionel dealer. So do not worry about not being able to have it, because you can be able to get it, because it can come separately. Lionel also does sell separate passenger cars. So if you do want to get more than 3 cars, then you can do that. If you do want to expand your train to be a little bit more prototypical with more than 3 cars, so you can do that as well. So Lionel has you all set up for anything that you want to do with your Hogwarts Express. I highly recommend doing anything, getting more cars, getting your Dementor's version of the Hogwarts Express, any type. I highly recommend getting it, because it is a engine that you'll never regret getting. And if you do not have it, you would definitely regret it, because if you're a Harry Potter fan, you would definitely want to get one of these. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining me in today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. It was definitely a long one, but of course I want to make sure that I'm going the extra direction by, of course, going really in depth and showing everything that this train set has to include. So of course you can, know what you're getting yourself into by getting this awesome engine. And I absolutely love this engine to death, and I'm super happy that I have my hands on one, because if I didn't have my hands on one, I probably would have regretted it, because this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely a work of art, and I really highly suggest you getting one of these, because these are super awesome. So once again, thank you guys for joining me in today's review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a little bit long, but of course I want to make sure I'm going in depth, so of course you know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you're purchasing this engine. So once again, thank you guys for joining me for today's review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys next time. By the way, if you're someone who does want to, of course, see more of this engine, don't worry about it, because you can go, if you want to see more videos of this engine, you can go ahead and subscribe, and of course hit that notification bell so you're notified when I do post other reviews of other engines or train sets. And also, if you do want to see running videos of all the trains that I currently have, including the Hogwarts Express, you can go ahead and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when you, of course, see more videos of my one and only Hogwarts Express. So once again, thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See you guys next time.